Hello, and welcome to the CLIA video instructional series. This video is entitled How to Complete a CMS-116 Application. In this short video, we'll show you where to find the application form to apply for the CLIA certification, as well as provide a step-by-step demonstration of completing the form. By the end of this video, you should have a better understanding of what's required to complete an application in order to receive a CLIA certificate. Let's get started. The first step in completing a CMS-116 application is to navigate to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services website at cms.gov/CLIA. This will take you to the official CLIA website. There's a lot of good information that you can find about the CLIA program by clicking on the links on the left-hand side of the page. But today we want to focus on the CLIA application, called the CMS-116 Application for Certification form. Click on the first link, How to Apply for a CLIA Certificate, including international laboratories. Before opening the application, it's a good idea to read the information on this page. It contains important information about the application and instructions on how to complete it. Now scroll down to the bottom of the page. In the Related Links box, you should see the PDF file CMS-116. Click on it to open up the application. The CMS-116 form contains fields which can be completed online. Some browsers such as Firefox, Chrome, and Microsoft Edge may be incompatible with this feature, requiring an update to a current version of the browser. Or you may need an Adobe PDF plugin in order for the fields to work. Please consult the support or troubleshooting section of your browser for help. If you can't get the form fields to work, you can print out the CMS-116 and complete it by hand. It's important to note that you may not need to complete all sections of the application. For instance, when you choose a certificate type in Section 2, the application prompts you on which remaining sections need to be completed. With that in mind, let's begin to complete the application. Meet Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob has just opened up a practice in the town of Sunnyside. His office performs strep and flu tests, urine dips, and blood glucose checks. Dr. Bob also performs complete blood counts, or CBCs. Dr. Bob knows that in order to perform these tests, he must be certified by CMS. To do so, he's been instructed to complete the CMS-116 application so that he can receive the CLIA certificate. Dr. Bob navigates to the CMS website to begin the application process. Section 1. General Information. Section 1 contains fields to enter a facility's demographic information. The first part of this section describes the purpose of the application. In addition to applying for a new CLIA certificate, a CMS-116 application can be used to update a facility's information during a survey, upgrade or downgrade a certificate to another type, or notify CLIA of other changes, such as a change in laboratory director. An effective date can also be entered to indicate the date the change will take effect. Because Dr. Bob does not have a CLIA certificate for his office, he checks the initial application box. Dr. Bob quickly fills out the rest of Section 1 with his facility name and address, federal tax ID number, and phone and fax numbers. He uses a P.O. box to receive his mail, so he enters it in the mailing address field. His practice doesn't belong to a corporation, so he leaves this field blank. Dr. Bob wants his certificate to arrive at his office, but any fee coupons to go to his P.O. box, so he marks the appropriate checkboxes in the Send Certificate to this address and Send Fee Coupon to this address fields. Since Dr. Bob will act as laboratory director, he enters his last name, first name, and middle initial in the director field. Section 2. Type of certificate requested. Dr. Bob is now ready to choose the type of certificate he needs to cover the types of tests that his office performs. He knows that the strep and flu tests, urine dips, and blood glucose checks are all waive tests. A certificate of waiver will cover these tests. But what about the CBCs? He knows the CBC test that he performs in his office is a moderately complex non-waived test. He wonders if he needs separate certificates to cover each type of test. Dr. Bob reads the instructions that came with the application and concludes that a certificate of compliance will cover all of the waived tests as well as the CBC tests. He checks the box, Certificate of Compliance, and notices the instructional note in parentheses next to it that he must complete all remaining sections of the application. Did you know that each successive certificate type covers all of the testing of the certificate type below it? For example, a certificate of waiver only covers waived testing. A certificate for provider-performed microscopy procedures, or PPM, covers both waived and PPM testing. And a certificate of compliance, or a certificate of accreditation, covers waived testing, PPM testing, and moderate and high complexity testing. Section 3. Type of laboratory. Section 3 describes the laboratory where the tests are being performed. For Dr. Bob, number 21, Physician Office, best describes where he performs his tests. He checks the box and moves on to Section 4. Section 4. Hours of laboratory testing. Dr. Bob performs tests at his office from 8 to 4, Monday through Friday, so he enters the time in Section 4, Hours of laboratory testing. Here's a quick tip. If your facility performs testing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, such as a large hospital, it's not necessary to complete all the hours fields. Just mark the box 24/7 instead. Section 5. Multiple sites. The multiple site exception is defined as a single-site CLIA certificate covering multiple testing locations. Multiple sites doesn't apply to Dr. Bob since he has only one location where he performs tests, so he checks the no box and moves on to Section 6. While the multiple site exception may not be for everyone, it is a practical option for facilities who can meet one of the following regulatory exceptions. 1. The laboratory is a temporary testing site, mobile unit, or health screening fair that moves from testing site to testing site, but uses a designated primary site as its home base. 2. The facility is not for profit or a federal, state, or local government lab that performs no more than a combination of 15 different types of moderate complexity or waived tests per certificate. And 3. The facility is a hospital with several laboratories located at contiguous or adjoining buildings on the same campus, within the same physical location or street address, and under common direction. Qualifying for one of these 3 exceptions may depend on what you choose for your laboratory type in Section 3, or your control type in Section 9. So make sure there are no conflicting choices before selecting one of these exceptions. For example, if you choose number 21, Physician Office, as your laboratory type in Section 3, your facility would not qualify under Regulatory Exception 3 because Exception 3 applies only to hospitals. Also, note the additional instructions if you choose yes for any of the 3 exceptions, and be sure to supply the information that is asked. Sections 6 through 8, Laboratory Testing. Pages 3 and 4 of the application contains 3 sections that all address the types of testing that are performed at a laboratory and the annual test volume of all the tests performed. The sections are broken down into Section 6, Waived Testing, Section 7, PPM Testing, and Section 8, Non-Waived Testing. Dr. Bob completes Section 6 by listing all the waived tests he performs at his office and entering a combined volume amount of all these tests for the entire year. Because he doesn't perform PPM tests, he checks the box, check if no PPM tests are performed in Section 7. Finally, to cover his CBC tests, Dr. Bob lists the tests in the space provided in Section 8. He checks the subspecialty hematology under the specialty of hematology in Section 8 and enters an annual test volume amount. The testing sections on pages 3 and 4 are some of the most important sections of the entire application for a number of reasons. 1. CLIA reviews the tests that are listed in each section so that we can be sure you're applying for the correct certificate type. And 2. The volume numbers you enter for non-waived testing determine the amount you pay for your non-waived certificate. If you're not sure how to count your tests, use the guidelines for counting tests for CLIA, found in the instruction portion of the CMS-116 Application Packet. Section 9, Type of Control. Dr. Bob checks number 4, Proprietary, in this section because he is the owner of his practice and it is run as a profit-making clinic. Other choices in this section include nonprofit and government ownership types. If you select number 3, Other Nonprofit, or number 9, Other Government, use the space provided to further describe your facility's ownership type. Section 10, Director Affiliation with Other Laboratories. Dr. Bob doesn't direct any other facility, so he leaves Section 10 blank. If you direct other labs that have their own CLIA certificate, you will list their CLIA number and facility name in this section. Why do we ask for this information? Because the regulations mandate that an individual can only serve as the director of no more than 5 non-waived labs. It's good practice to list all the laboratories that you direct, including waived labs, so that we can have a record of it in the system. Signature and date fields. Finally, Dr. Bob has reached the end of the application. He reads the legal agreement and then signs and dates the application. Did you know that the #1 reason why an application is returned is because it was not signed or dated? Before sending the application off to the state agency, check to make sure there's a signature and date. And remember, only the laboratory director or owner can sign the application. Dr. Bob is now finished completing his CMS-116 application. He makes a copy of the application for his records, then mails the original copy to the state agency. Dr. Bob is happy, knowing that his CLIA certificate will soon be on the way. To find the contact information of the CLIA office in your state, go to cms.gov/CLIA. Click on the link How to Apply for a CLIA Certificate, including international laboratories, and scroll down to the Downloads box to find the PDF file CLIA State Agency Contacts. Now that you've watched the process of completing a CMS-116 application, it's time for you to give it a try. If you still need help, feel free to contact your Tennessee State Agency at 615-741-7023 or email any questions to clia.health@tn.gov. Thanks for watching.